we ready? Recording.
Yes.
All right.
Evening, Gaffa. How are we?
Start again. Ready? We're going to start. Lou, we're going to start now.
Hi, evening, Gaffa. How are we?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. Are you all set up for this evening? You got yourself ready?
Yeah. I've tried to stay out of the sun. Your setting looks far better than mine, mate. I'm going to say you look like Northwest tonight, but most of the people who look at this will have no idea what Northwest tonight is.
No, well, it's listen. I'm out in the garden because it's bedtime in our house, and it'd be absolute bedlam. There'd be no chance we'd get any of this done right. So, but I'm well prepared. I
must say that as well. We might have a child that comes and says night through it, so I'm sure you'll want to come and say hello to everybody. So we may have kids that running in and out of this, so we do apologise if that does happen. Not
a problem. Well, like I say, I've got my brew. I've prepared myself with my water. I know how you've got your Halifax Town top on.
Yeah.
I thought I'd put a shirt on, try and make an effort, seeing as it's the first time since lockdown I've actually had any sort of human contact. And I've obviously got my gilet representing for the backroom boys, just for if it gets a bit chilly.
Yeah, I love that. Love that.
So I've got a list of questions here that have been emailed through to me. They're questions that obviously the fans have provided for you. So we'll go through them. Obviously, I know that you'll answer honestly with anything you can, as you always do. So
to my detriment at times, that isn't it, mate?
Say again, pal.
I answer too honestly at times, to my detriment.
Possibly, yeah. Just bite your lip a bit. Listen, we'll edit it. Don't worry, we'll get them to edit it. But so should we get started?
Let's do it, mate. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, first one we've got a grand total of 17 to get through. So let's see how we do.
Right.
The first one we've got here is number 1. What has been your standout result of the season, and what has been your worst?
Right. I always think start with a negative and then finish with a positive. So I think my worst has got to be Boxing Day at Stockport. It was not a great day. Things contrived against us, if you remember, mate, the few days leading up to that. And then just so many lads off the pace, and we were poor from the get-go. And like I say, some of the stuff leading up in the days before that didn't go the way we wanted it to go. And chuck in Christmas as well. It wasn't our day, and still to this day, I'm highly frustrated about the performance we put in that day and how things completely just didn't go our way. And that's not an excuse. We weren't good enough, and they came out. I remember coming out of the game saying we weren't good enough. And that's quite easy for me. That's probably the lowest point of being at the club. And not a great day. Go on, maybe before I go on to my best. Knowing you as I do, I think yours was quite similar, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get worse than that, really. I think we're very similar. You don't mind getting beaten by the better team. You don't mind getting beaten when you've played properly, when you've played well, when you've given it everything. But to go out with such a whimper on such a big day. Boxing Day fixtures are always exciting at a nice venue, big club. It doesn't help when you're so familiar with the opposition bench. It makes it even more painful. So yeah, I found it really difficult. I remember after the game, I got Jerome JB to take a very subtle picture for me on my phone of the scoreboard, because I that photo and that moment will serve as a great motivator for me. I don't ever want to have to experience that feeling again. And listen, I'm sure I'll be involved in games where teams that I'm involved with get beat by a good few goals, but it was the manner. It was how disappointing we were on the day and how we lacked any real sort of fight. But largely a one-off. We have had games where we've taken a little more than we wanted to in terms of conceding goals, but we don't generally just roll over, which I think on that day that was the real painful thing. And I think the fans would probably agree with that.
If I remember right, most of them told me on the way out.
And rightly so.
And rightly so, yeah. Yeah, let me add there, and rightly so, yeah. I mean, favourite, I've got two,
Well,
the first one was Filed at home. Remember how I just thought how good we played that day, and how we'd worked on stopping Filed's threat, and how threatening we were on the counter attack. I've got friends that play for Filed, and they said you were wow that day, and it's just so early on for it to all click. And in terms of sort of performance, that would probably be the best performance of the season, in my opinion. But in terms of sort of fans, atmosphere, Charlie away, what a support, by the way, that day. That the support, and they were behind us from minute one, and we had a couple of chances early doors, and I thought, right, wow, what an atmosphere this is today. So in terms of how we played, and my professional football head would be Filed, but in terms of atmosphere and sort of a day for the spectators, I thought Charlie away was booming. What's yours, mate?
Well, I'm going to say you've got to nail it down. So the question is, ask for your best. So go on, give us, if you had to pick one, which one would it be?
I'm going Filed because I thought we were excellent on that day, and that's probably one of the most pleasing aspects of for Filed to have come off such a season they'd had before, and for us to play them early doors and to get the result we did. It was a great day.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, Filed, similarly, I'd say Filed was one of the highlights. Surely, like you say, the thing that made Surely for me really was the fact that the home game, the home tie had been so disappointing in terms of the amount of possession we had, second half home, the amount of games, the amount of possession we had, the amount of territory in their half. Then to go there and expecting a very similar setup from them, but to go there and beat them and get such a backing off the travelling fans who, the travelling fans, you'd always back them, but there was something different that day. They were really special.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah. But I think performance-wise for me, it's probably Chesterfield away.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yes. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I thought we were decent. I thought we played some great football. Evening fixture, always that little bit of sort of spice with an evening fixture. I thought we played some really good stuff. And I thought they did. I thought second half, they had patches, they had little bits of moments where they got hold of the ball. I thought it was a really good game of football. And we saw a number of sides to ourselves that day. We saw our ability to counter-attack really well, which we definitely did early part of the season. We saw our ability to hold possession and work the ball. And possibly what we didn't do as much in other games, we kept possession, but then it resulted in chances. And then when they had the ball, we got back behind it. And if they had good spells of possession, we defended well. We were organised. We didn't flap. We worked as a unit. So for me, I mean, I know you look at the teams we're mentioning here, Chorley, Filed and Chesterfield have all probably had disappointing seasons. But I think, there have been times when those types of teams have really undone us because they've got in behind the ball. They've just said to us, go on, then break us down, and we've had difficulty with that on occasion. So the fact that we did perform so well against those teams in those games is decent. But for me, it'd probably be Chesterfield away, that one.
Right, that mate. Yeah, spot on.
Okay, moving on. Question number 2. This one's about the squad. How many of the squad from this season are you going to retain? Is the uncertainty in which division we could potentially be playing making recruitment harder? How do you know which standard of player to bring in when you don't know which division you'll be playing in next season?
Interesting. Very good question. Well, we haven't actually spoken, because of all the uncertainty, we haven't spoken to any members of the squad yet regards retain and release. Obviously, we've got 4 players who have got 2-year deals. But we have obviously sat down, and we've sat down with the chairman, and we've got a good idea what we want to do. We will be offering a substantial amount of the squad deals. Whether they take them or not is obviously is up to them, and they'll have to think about that. But yes, we want to build. We don't want two examples. You look at Fylde gets to the playoff final, rip it up, start again, and have a tough season. I know we spoke about this a lot, Millie, and you look at Notts County in League Two a couple of years ago, who lose to Coventry in the playoff semi-final. They go and bring in 15 new players, and they're relegated the next season. So it's a fine balance, and especially with what's going on with the way the world at the moment, I think would be daft to start ripping up and starting again. I think we should need to build on what we've got. So there will be quite a few offered. There will also be a few disappointments, but we haven't spoken to any player yet. So unfortunately, I can't divulge much more into that. But the second part of the question is recruitment, not knowing what league we're in. I actually think we're at for doing well, we're at a disadvantage and we're being hampered a little bit here because we don't know obviously what league we're going into being. We obviously haven't told our own players, which then they can't digest that offer that might be on the table to move forward. And obviously, with the way of the world and with what could possibly be going on, the chairman, I can't nail the chairman down, and rightly so, to sort of what budgets we'll be looking at next year. So, for doing well, we're actually in a sticky situation. Don't get me wrong, the planning's done. Me and Chris have done a lot of the planning, and we know what sort of players and what sort of people we'd like to keep. But until we know for certain what's going on, it's a real difficult time for us at the moment to get some clarity. As a nation, we all like clarity, and what we lack at the moment is clarity. Don't get me wrong, there's a bigger picture out there at the moment. The football is secondary into everything that's going on, but if we could have some clarity, it would obviously certainly help us at the moment. In terms of types of player, we have a sort of type of player that we like to bring in, and we have a system that we want to adopt next season. So type of player who fits in the system that we want to play, that wants to adhere to the way we want to do things next year, which I'll allude to a little bit later on. They all come into the mix and chuck on top of that budget as well, because what's really surprised me this year is how much some players are on within our league, and it's really knocked me for six a little bit how much some people are on and demanding, and how some teams in this league, how much they're spending on players. It's phenomenal. It's flabbergasting. So hopefully that's a roundabout answer to your question of there's a lot of permutations at the moment that are unanswered.
Yeah, I think if I could just chip in on that, I think what it's important for the fans to be aware of is that we've spent a lot of time, and it's been useful time in the last few weeks, preparing for every eventuality, haven't we? You know what I mean? We've got targets of players in certain positions. We've talked through, depending on division, which players of our own we think could cope with the step up if that were to happen. Which players we'd look to retain if we stay in the division we're in. Potential targets for both. And in an ideal world, even if we didn't go up, you'd still target the lads in from the higher level if you could possibly attract them to the club, wouldn't you? So it's allowed us a lot of time from the planning perspective, but now it's just knowing which plan is going to get actioned, and it's out of our hands, that, isn't it?
Well, look at the last 2 days, mate. We've probably spent 5 hours over the Zoom talking players, systems, performance models. I've enjoyed it, mate. Don't get me wrong, but we've spent a lot of time this week, as much as we have done every week, in talking what potentially could happen and what that means for us.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
It does. We're moving on. Question 3. What's been your biggest learning curve, and how has that had an impact on how you manage?
Oh, right.
I'm getting a bit cold here, so I'll buy you a bit of time by getting me gilet on.
That's
this
lovely,
one's for the boys. There we go.
Lovely.
Far away.
The biggest learning curve. Preparation, I think, has been a massive one. What do I mean by that? Where our focus and attention should go. We spent a lot of time focusing on our opposition. and maybe sometimes it's been stopping them instead of creating what we should be creating. And other times it's been more about us than them, and it's been finding that balance of having enough information about the opposition, but not forgetting about what we're good at and how we need to implement our way of thinking. So I think the biggest learning curve is finding that balance and not over-egging the pie with information about opposition. I remember when we first started at the start of the season, we were putting reams of information on the flip chart board before games, and as the season's gone on, we felt that wasn't appropriate. We go a lot into detail on Thursday and Friday on the opposition, and we've tried to, over the season, make that more bite-sized chunks around how does that affect us. And we've tried to have a real focus on us, but maybe we've lost our way a little bit second half of the season with a change in formation on us. So my honest answer is that he's finding that fine balance on preparation of us versus them. And I think that's been a massive learning curve for myself around trying to get that balance and get the right information at the right time across to the players in the limited time that we've got within how we run our working week with the hybrid model. I think the other thing as well that I certainly want to allude to is bravery. Bravery, the biggest learning curve is sometimes that I've gone for the safe option, or we've gone for the safe option in terms of formations, selections, recruitment. And I think, if I'm being honest, I think we could be braver in our decision, braver in what we think. Generally, your first thought's generally the right thought, and maybe we should be having time to think about. Maybe I think we should be a little bit braver at times, and maybe not listen to the outside noise as much. And if we feel it's right, we should go for it a little bit more. So, attention to detail and bravery have been the biggest learning curves for me as we've gone through this, and making sure that simplicity is key. Well, that's honest enough for you, mate.
Good.
Yeah,
no, I appreciate that. That's good. We've covered quite a bit. The next question. This one's more about what you've been up to in the lockdown. So it's the question is: out of all the calls you've made to the young fans, what is the funniest comment so far? So during the lockdown, I know you've been calling a lot of fans, not just the young fans, but a lot of fans, and try to do your bit for the community of Halifax there and the fans of Halifax Town. So what's the funniest comment you've had from any of the young fans you've spoken to?
Well, first of all, the phone calls have been excellent, and it's been very humbling, and for everybody at the club for the nice comments we've had, and the comments that people have said about us and about the season and about how we've done things. So I've been really humbled about that. Found out that actually fans do like us, mate. Yeah, but it's been really humbling. I've really enjoyed it, and it's something that for me I quite enjoy doing. As you can tell by this Zoom, I like talking. I like talking to people, and I've really enjoyed speaking to the fans and gathering their opinions. And I wanted them to be honest with me and tell me what they thought, and not just about football. We're talking about general life and politics and things like that. So I feel like I'm a more rounded bloke after these phone calls. That's the first thing. There haven't really been any more funny moments, but one child did say to me that I'd been added as the manager of his FIFA team. Now, I've no idea how you do that. I have no idea what goes on in that process. I'm not FIFA-esque. I am the original button presser and just smash the buttons if I ever play FIFA. But apparently I was added to his FIFA team, so great pride in taking the FIFA team. Hope that answers that.
Good stuff. Moving on. Yeah. The next one relates more to the last one. The next question is: who do you want to sign in the summer? Ex-Football League players or Football League players? Also, do you reckon that Devontae Rodney will join us?
Right. Well, obviously, we are looking at a mixture of players. We'd like to add a little bit more experience to the squad. Whether that comes from the Football League or that comes from people who've played non-league, I think there needs to be a good balance within that. Obviously, across the season, we have become not more aware, but more pay more attention to players within non-league and our knowledge base of players within non-league. I think you'd agree, Millie, he's gone up tenfold. On most of our education has been in the Football League, so our knowledge of sort of League One, League Two players was probably better coming into the job than our non-league knowledge. So hopefully we have an extensive scouting spreadsheet of players of who we like and who we want and why we'd like them and do they fit our model, etc., etc. So our scouting spreadsheet is quite complex and wide-ranging and covers a lot of different facets. So we feel like we've got on there Football League, non-league players with experience. We also want to mix that in with some good young prospects that hopefully become football and financial assets for the club. So we're looking at a few of them as well, and hopefully they may come off. So to try to find a balance based on the people we'd like to keep, and if they say no to us, we've got 2, 3, 4 option that comes below that should the players not to want to stay with us. And we've got the same should our first option not come to fruition for whatever reason. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5 options in some areas of who we'd like to target. So I'd like to think probably one of our strengths and probably one of the good things of the lockdown is that we are quite clear in who we want to recruit and who we want to keep and why we want to recruit or keep them. Will Devante stay with us? Devante's done well since he come back to us. We will have a ream of options from the league and from non-league probably, and there was a few inquiries when we got him from Salford. So I think that will come down to finances, that one with Devante, and how far finances will stretch to entice Devante to maybe re-sign with us. But he comes into the player that's obviously done well for the club. Somebody obviously that has really impressed us while he's been with us. But it's the $1 million question, isn't it? If it comes down to finances, that might be the thing that unfortunately might be our undoing. But I'm not ruling it out.
No, well, I think that's the thing with Devante is the one thing or two things that go in our favour, I suppose, are the fact that he's got such a good affinity with the fans and he's got such a good affinity with the club. But obviously, like you're alluding to there, money talks, doesn't it? And ultimately, that'll play a large part, I'm sure, in what decision he makes. But he's a great lad, isn't he?
Spot on. What a nice lad. Really enjoyed working with him. Yeah.
If that could continue, then we'd all be happy. So we'll see. Where are we up to? Let's see. And right, the next question is number 6. Are we planning on activating the 12-month option on Redshaw's contract? Now, this is great. I'm enjoying this. We should do this more because I'm learning quite a lot here. I didn't know there was an option on Jack. I had no idea about squad retain and release lists, and so we should do this more. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Come on, far away.
Well, there isn't an option on Jack, so you're right.
Yeah.
Jack came in on a short-term contract to prove his fitness after he left Salford. He did well. We thank you to the chairman for backing us both with the Devante Rodney one and with Jack to get him over the line in January, and then that contract was till the end of the season. To be reviewed at the end of the season. Again, another one that's done well since he's come into us, and I think again with a good pre-season under his belt could certainly push forward back to where he was. He's an established Football League player, Jack, and has been for many years. So again, he's somebody that's well within our thoughts and well within our thinking, and if finances dictate again, it's something that we would like to explore, but again, I think he'll have suitors in the Football League, and it'll be a case of whether we can match or entice him to stay with us for another season. So hopefully that answers that one.
Yeah, again, similar to Devante, really. I think he's built a good affinity with the club. I know his family come and watch him every home game, and they seem happy when they're at the club, and the fans have taken to him. So, you know, if money's not the issue, then there's a lot of, you know, attractive reasons for him to stay in there. But we shall see. Moving on. What has been your most surprising thing that you've learned about the club that you didn't know before you arrived?
think that's quite easy, that one. Sort of the size and the stature of the club, and the expectation, by the way, as well. I understood that Halifax had a great history of being in the Football League, and I remember them in the Football League. But obviously, with the unfortunate situation of them going out of the league and having to sort of rebuild throughout the leagues, I probably was caught unaware a little bit of sort of the stature and the size of the club, and sort of how much fan base the club has, and whether that be turning up on match days or just in general, the people throughout the country who've got an affinity to FC Halifax Town. And I find that it was quite surprising. It still surprises me now when I make the phone calls and speak to people. And I say, how many years are you going down? People say 50, 60 years. And you go, wow, it's got so much history, steeped in history. And you look at the event that they did in January, 40 years to beat Man City and things like that. This club's got a massive history and a massive stature within football. And it surprised me how much it had. And it's been very pleasing. But what comes with all that is greater expectation. So there is an expectation, although they have been out of the league for so many years, and there is an expectation that's come with the job, and the expectation of the fans of trying to get back in the league has surprised me. Being an Oldham fan and coming through the Premier League days, I know about expectation and things like that, but surprised me how driven the fans are to try and get back into the league, and how they want that yesterday.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
Number 8. Are you looking forward to having a proper pre-season after the strange situation you inherited last pre-season?
Yes. But could be strange again this summer, couldn't it? Because who knows when we're going to play again, and who knows when pre-season will be. So, yes, we are looking forward to that. We have a lot of plans afoot of how we want to do things. We went with the model and went with a process this season that was very much... we've got a model, let's get as much of that into the players as we can, and then let's just ride with it a little bit this season, where we have full intentions this summer of doing things from the start, our way, how we want to do things, and getting players that want to do it our way. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they didn't last year, because they did. That's why we did well, because they played to what we wanted, but we have a certain way of... We want to take the club to the next level, but by doing that, if we don't have the finances to do that, we need to work a different way. And I've been using this strap line with Chris that you're probably going to hear over the next few months, of going the extra mile. If we're going to compete with the big boys in this league financially, we're going to have to work harder. We're going to have to go the extra mile. We're going to have to do things differently, and we're going to have to get a breed of player that wants to go the extra mile, that wants to work differently, that wants to work to their maximum to make sure that gap keeps diminishing. So we fully intend this pre-season to work a different way and have a different training program and a different set up to what days we work and how we work. So that will be first and foremost, and that might not be for every player that we've got already. So that might then be some conversations that we have to have with them players that don't want to work our way because of what we're asking for them. And if that's the case, then unfortunately we'll have to pursue other players. So that'll be the first thing. In terms of recruitment, obviously we're going to have to recruit players that want to go the extra mile. And in terms of that's obviously fresh in our minds, and that'll be made explicit to all players that are joining the football club. And like I alluded to a bit ago, we've been working hard on our performance model and making sure that this year our performance model matches what we want, and we stick to it, and we're brave to stick to what we believe in our performance model. But our performance model needs to be more robust than last year to be able to be brave, to be able to do that. So hopefully we can get some of our key values across to the team by having a good pre-season and changing things for the better of the football club.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that the getting a good pre-season, getting a good start to the season it'll be a big help, really, because I know we came in and the lads were spot on with the way they just got their heads down and cracked on. But it was a change for them. It was different. There was, we were asking them to do things tactically that they hadn't been asked by the previous manager. I think we were coming in with a view to trying to, add some sort of level of detail, but within that, giving them some freedom as well to express themselves. So it wasn't easy to get that balance right quickly, although, results might suggest differently. But anyway, moving on. Are you happy with the training arrangements?
Well, that's probably for me, my last question, a lot of the last question, isn't it? But in terms of training facilities, they're excellent. They're better than what we had at Oldham, mate, aren't they? The training facilities, they're excellent venue, and we're out on our own out there as well, which is peaceful, and there's no outdoor, there's no mither up there. We'd like to, obviously they're not in Halifax, which is obviously a little bit different, but in terms of training facilities, really happy. In terms of the hybrid model, we will be sticking with the hybrid model, but we'll be asking more of the players within the hybrid model to go the extra mile. So as I alluded to before, there might be some interesting conversations with players should they not wish to want to pursue and go the extra mile to try and get this club to the next level. So there'll be interesting conversations that we'll have to have, and we will be going that way. That's the way we're going. And we're only looking for players that want to go the extra mile for the football club and take them to the next level. So in terms of sort of training, that's what we need to do to bridge the gap, and that's what we're going to do.
Good. If you can hear all the clapping and cheering in the background, by the way,
yeah,
that ain't for you. That's for our carers. That.
So we'll just do a little one of them, and I feel really bad that we're not doing this, but at least I feel like we've done a little ripple there.
No, showing our appreciation for the NHS and for all those frontline workers. But moving on, has the time off given you a chance to put together an ideal squad in your head for when football resumes? And if so, have conversations taken place with these players? Now, you've answered that to a large degree, but you can take that one off and just give us a brief answer on that.
Yeah, it's been very good. It's been good to take stock and try and think about what's right for us. A stat: 1,400 players out of contract this summer, I believe. Speaking to somebody the other day, I reckon there'll be over 1,400 players out of contract. So it's allowed us to work on ourselves as staff, because we generally don't get the time to do that. And I've done a lot of sort of reading, research on me and making me, and I know you have, Million, in terms of what you've been doing. It's narrowed our focus in terms of recruitment and who we want. So I think we've got a real narrow focus on what we want now, and I hope that's come across in the previous questions around training, around recruitment, around performance plans. We've really narrowed our focus down. We know what we want now, and we're now really, really striving to get what we want. And I also spent a lot of time talking to agents. I'd like to challenge Thomas Moore, the veteran, to a garden. I think I've done as much laps as him around the garden. I've not raised as much money as the bloke, and fair play to him, but I've done a lot of laps of the garden, talking to agents, players, the chairman, and just basically spend my day. I don't know if I have radioactive poisoning walking around the garden, but I seem to spend a lot of time walking around the garden. So yes, it's been great, and I feel like we've got a real narrow focus on what we actually want.
Yeah, and just sort of attached to that, really, the next question was, have we got a full squad if the playoffs were to happen? Now, obviously, while we're doing this sat here right now, it's still unclear as to what's going to happen, whether or not the playoffs will take place, or whether or not the season will be ended and another outcome, or the season will be fully ended and another outcome happens. So just touch on the squad there, would you?
Yeah, every member of the squad's still signed up. Every contract says every contract's up after the last competitive game. So whenever the last competitive game is, the players' contracts will be up. So yeah, completely full squad. All free of injury as well. We've had a few injuries, apart from Michael Duckworth, who's still recovering from his shoulder operation. But apart from that, we're all fit and healthy, which is great.
Good stuff. Now, the next one, I know I can answer half of this for myself, because It's how have you managed to keep the players, backroom staff, and yourself motivated, positive, and fit during the last few unprecedented weeks now?
Well,
I know as far as the staffing goes. Yeah, well, as far as the staff goes, me and you speak every day. I know, speaking to Joe Stead, the goalie coach, he's been off running, so he don't need any motivating. Jacko, the kit man's off walking the moors up in Howarth where he lives, and he's lost about bloody 10 stone or something. He's back to his fighting weight. I'm not sure whether or not Nick, the physio, or Aaron are up to a great deal. They might have the feet up and just taking it easy at the minute, but I know the rest of us are all doing a bit. I'm off on my bike with the kids every day, trying to keep them busy. So there's plenty of stuff going on. But go on, what's happening to try and keep the players fit and positive and motivated?
Well, they've all got training programs to follow and to be getting on with. We have. I don't know if it's a good thing, but we've set up a WhatsApp group, haven't we, that me and you are in with the players. Just obviously what the players are doing fitness-wise, and a little bit of, I try and keep the banter very low in that, because we don't want to be privy to most of the banter that's going on. I drop an odd thing in now and again just to keep morale high. And Chris has been making a lot of phone calls to the players and seeing how they are. I've tried to do that as much as possible. But really just sort of keep driving them forward, keep them going, keep pushing them on. The chairman's been phenomenal through all this, and all we've tried to do is try and keep spirits high amongst staff and players to make sure that everybody's remained focused on what hopefully could be an end to the season.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I find this stuff really interesting because, we do all the work on the grass and all the coaching, and we talk about motivation. Is there a little lad there popping in to say good night?
Yeah, there might be a little lad in a minute that's telling me he's hungry at 8:05 at night, which is not great on our part. But right, go on, you want to say hello?
Hello.
Say hello to everybody.
All right, Ollie lad, how are you?
And hello. Yeah. Right, go back to your mother now, please.
Is that it? That's as much as he's getting.
So there you go. Yeah, I told you you'd come at some point.
Yeah, the stuff around motivation I always find quite interesting, and that's one of the things I think at this time it's really hard to sort of give any motivation, because the sort of the outward ways of motivating are obviously money. Well, they ain't going to win any more money because there's no games being played. Applause and cheers and pats on the back and all of that stuff, and they ain't going to be getting any of that because there's no games happening and there's no fans in the ground, and it's all a lot of the external stuff that would be used to motivate it isn't there. It makes it very difficult because there's no date to work towards where we can say, look, this is the date, let's make sure we're working towards that. So it's a time when you start to see about who's internally motivated, which lads have got that motivation within them to want to be the best they can be regardless of the outside circumstances. So we know it's easier for some than it is for others, but I think there are certain lads within the group who regardless of what's going on outside, they'll take responsibility for themselves. They'll make sure they do as much work as hard as they can, as often as they can. And it's not easy for everyone, don't get me wrong, but it's a time when they get an opportunity to go, right, well, what's really driving me here? Is it the money? Is it the applause? Is it the pats on the back that I get when I'm playing? Or can I be driven by something a little bit more, that desire to stay at the top of my game, ready for when all of those uncontrollables like COVID-19 and lockdowns and all those things that we haven't got control over all start to fit back into play. So I find that dead interesting, that me.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I think it's hard to offer any external motivation into it, but I think we're lucky in that we've got a group that's got a good number of lads in who can keep firing regardless.
I think mate, as well, that we're quite driven people who are quite motivated. So I think that does help them when from the top they're getting driven and hopefully motivated from ourselves to keep going, because we are driven individuals that know what we want. So I think that helps when there's drive from the top.
Well, I think also this time's the time of opportunity in some respects, isn't it? I mean, no one would wish this time on us at all. You wouldn't want this situation, but you can look for the opportunity in it, as we have done. We've looked at, well, how can we get better? How can we make our sort of playing model better? How can we be better prepared for if the playoffs happen, for better prepared for next season? And I hope that some of the lads see it that way as well, because although again we wouldn't want this downtime, it's probably done some lads a bit of good. There were one or two lads who were carrying niggles, who had they carried on playing might have turned into something worse, and they were playing through niggles for us. So it might have given some lads a little bit of time to sort of just let the bodies heal a little bit. Obviously, Ducky's got that bit of time to get himself back ready for whether it's any playoffs that might happen or beginning of next season. So there's some opportunity within this, and hopefully we all manage to find some opportunity throughout this time.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. How confident are you that we can push on next year in this division and maintain staying up the top end of the division?
Well, if we're in this division, let's start with that bit. If we're in this, but if we are, if we do what we did last year, then no, we need to. Complacency could be the worst thing that could happen to us if we're happy with where we're at the moment. If we're happy with what we're doing at the moment, then I'm not convinced we can stay there. So what we've got to do, and I keep using the words extra mile, we'll have to go the extra mile, and we'll have to ensure that complacency is not within our ranks. And what happened this year has been great, but that doesn't give us a God-forgiven right to be there at this time next year, and the teams will get stronger. Teams will invest, and teams who had big budgets this year but it didn't go their way, we're desperate for that to change next year. So we're going to have to do more, and we're going to have to make sure that we're ready to do more. And recruitment will be key to us to make sure we do more, so to avoid complacency. But the same rules will apply next year. If whatever league we're in, it'll be get to 50 points as quick as we can. Can we beat January the 25th or whatever it was this year? Get to 50 points as quick as we can. Get in that top 10 and then push for the playoffs, top 3, top 1. They won't change from our ambitions this year. And what I want to be known as a Halifax team that's fighting at the right end of the league and not the wrong end of the league, but that doesn't come with that's not a given. And one thing we all need to do is work harder, try harder, do better, find more consistency across the season, and we'll only do that by going the extra mile.
Yeah, I think there's things we've identified, and this time, this sort of downtime has helped us with reflection, and there's things we've identified that we can do better as individuals, as a staff, that we can ask more out of the other members of the backroom staff, which will ultimately lead to a more professional environment and more accountability for not only us but the players, because the more support we give them and the more help we give them, the more that we expect from them. So yeah, there's definitely things we can do better, and if that then adds up to us to league positions, then all being well, it'll mean that we're in and around, if not above, where we finish this season.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on, did you expect to do this well in your first season with the club?
Honestly, no. We believe in our ability, don't we, mate? We've got massive belief in our ability and massive belief in what we do and how we do things, and we feel we have a good working way that brings the best out of players, and one of our strengths. And for one, I'm not trying to blow our own trumpets, but we get the best out of players at whatever level. So we were confident in our ability coming in. We were confident that we could change things around. We'd come off the back of a successful stint at Oldham, and we were excited to try and do things our way. But honestly, I don't think we could have expected to be top of the league come on the end of October, and I don't think we could have expected to have hit the playoffs and been fighting at the right end of the table as much as we have been. if we'd have got a top 10 finish, I'm sure I'd have bit your hand off. I'm sure you'd have been the same, mate. If we'd have finished top 10 when we were driving on the coach down to Ebbsfleet, we'd have said to each other, top 10, will you take it? I'm sure we'd have both took it. But I think we've exceeded our expectations, but it's also given us a massive hunger to now drive on and want more and know we can offer more.
Yeah, I'd agree. How and in what ways do you think you have developed as a manager since you joined the club?
Massively developed. I'll start with, I was the LMA have been providing every week like Q&A sessions with the managers, and I was on a Q&A this afternoon with Brendan Rodgers, and he talked about having done 500 games and he feels like he's just completed his apprenticeship, and I thought, fair play, that's a great comment. And he thinks now that he wants to get to 1,000 games, and the next 500 games are now implementing what he's good at. And I thought, yeah, I totally agree with you. What are we, 57 games into being managers? We're very novices. We know that. We know we've got a lot to learn. We're very pleased that the football club's given us an opportunity to learn and express our talents. We know we have to learn quickly, otherwise we won't have a job. We're quite aware of that. But we feel like we're still in our apprenticeship, and we feel like, I feel like I'm still in my apprenticeship, so I'm talking for you there, mate. And I feel like we can do more. We've got a lot to offer, got a lot to learn. But I feel like I've massively improved our tactical awareness. There's nothing better than a Saturday afternoon and tactically trying to get it right and tactically trying to find a way of beating the opposition, of what they've thrown at us, of what we worked on this week and what they've thrown at us. So that I feel like I've massively improved tactically in that area. I also believe that my manner, although some of you won't agree with me on the sidelines at times, my manner and how I conduct myself is getting better. Is it complete? No, it's nowhere near complete. I've got better in my manner. I get very frustrated very quickly. That's just me as a person. Manager in this league called me intense. I was quite happy with that comment, in the fact that I'm desperate to do well for the football club, and if that means being intense and desperate to win on a Saturday, then that's me. Yeah, that's me in abundance. But I do understand I need to control my manner better. Which Monday to Friday, I'd like to think my manner's quite good. Saturday afternoons on the sideline, I still think I can be better with my manner and how I conduct myself on the sidelines to make sure I get tactically better. So that's something that I think I've massively improved in, but I've still got a lot to learn. And clarity. I think that I've developed a lot of clarity across the season on what I actually want, what I actually think breeds successful teams, and what I actually think individuals want to get better. So I feel like I have a lot more clarity in them areas, but I still feel like I'm massively an apprentice within the management setting, and feel like I will be for some time. Yeah,
good stuff. This one should be for me, to be fair.
Hang on, you need to come in on this next one.
Well, as a fully paid up member of the Manchester scene, I feel a bit aggrieved that you're getting this question and I'm not.
Well, I'm going to chuck it back at you.
Well, I don't know if you're going to try and chuck it back at me because you were listening to Gloria Estefan at the time, but we'll see. But the question is, does Pete have a favourite in Spiral Carpet song, being an Oldham lad?
Well, Clint Boone is obviously a legend of the town, and he used to do when I first started going out, he used to do a nightclub scene on a Friday night. He did South, but he did Tokyo Project as well a little bit later on in Oldham. So he used to DJ. Yeah. So the Boone Army, I was a fully paid up member of the Boone Army. But do you know what? I'll be honest, I had to Google which ones to try and narrow it down to think about. And I went with This Is How It Feels, if I'm honest.
Brilliant. It's the biggest hit, isn't it? It's fantastic.
It is the biggest hit, but I think it summarises a lot of things, and the lyrics are decent, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I should say at this point, your knowledge of pop trivia and bands and songs is probably second to none. So the fact that you had to Google it, I'm pretty disappointed, to be honest, pal.
I'm
If
waiting
it
for
was
a
Belinda
mastermind.
Carlisle or someone like that, you'd have smashed it out of the park. You'd have known straight away.
80s cheese and 90s, I'd have got it, but I was disappointed in myself. But there was a mastermind topic around intros and getting that. I don't know. Actually, I've done about 3,000 quizzes with friends and family over this, and my knowledge of music intros is becoming second to none at the moment.
Yeah. Right, final question. Would you believe?
Oh, wow.
I think we've raced through it.
Yeah.
I think we've raced through it. But the final one, it's a long one here, so let me just make sure I get it right.
Just before we go on, Bill, what was yours? What was your Boone Army in Spiral Carpet's favourite?
Yeah, it's game, innit? It's the big one. But there was the one big album, really, wasn't it? It was tune after tune. But there were a few bands at that time who did the same. I mean, the Stone Roses' first album was similar time, and that was, the second one never really lived up to it, did it? And there were loads of charlatans. Listen, don't get me started.
I tell you what,
we'll be here all night.
This would go down well talking about the Manchester band scene, wouldn't it, with the Yorkshire Football Club?
I know. But listen, they've got taste. They understand.
Yeah.
They know. Okay, so the final question. When you joined the club, there was no mention of how long you signed with the club. Given the speculation linking you with other jobs this season, can you confirm you are signed on and committed to Halifax for next season, whenever that may be?
Yes, we signed a 2-year deal, so we have another season to go. So unfortunately, some of you will be disappointed, and hopefully some of you are excited. But we signed a 2-year deal, and that takes us obviously to the end of next season. Are we committed? We're 110% committed. Hopefully that's come across in this Zoom call this evening, how passionate we are about being successful. Yes, there was speculation last year, but I put that down to the players, and fair credit to the players. You're only being speculated about if your team's doing well. So as at the time when speculation of which none of it, I can firmly say none really spoke to me. So speculation was quite easy for me. But we spoke to the players at the time. I remember Millie saying to him, listen, if we're being speculation, it's because you lot are doing well, so well done. And it's firmly about the boys on the Saturday when they walk over the white line, and to a man last season, fair credit to them, they were excellent.
Yeah, I think if I can add some on that, and I think in terms of being committed to the club, it's pretty easy to be committed and without sort of talking about talking about people in a false way. It's absolutely genuine when I say the sort of way the chairman commits himself to the club. You can't help but want to match that. I think the backroom staff have been brilliant. Then you look at the other staff at the club, the club secretary, what a genuine bloke. You've got Ben doing the commercial, who's fantastic. Obviously, Louisa, who's so efficient, so well organised, and runs everything really down to a T. So
you've got to be your team as well, mate. I've never known a club that puts out so much media and so much social media content that it's wow. There's always stuff coming out of the club, and that's really pleasing.
And the lads who are working with the youth team who are punching above the weight for the level in terms of the youth team and really driving something forward, because it's getting better year on year, the programme they're running. So it kind of ties in. I was just trying to see then where the question came earlier on about things that surprised you about the club. And really, when you scratch the surface of the club, and everyone knows the recent history has been quite difficult in terms of going out of business, restarting the club, coming through part-time football, now in a hybrid model. But when you get beyond that side of things and you start to look at what's behind that, the level of professionalism and the way everything's run it's just like a professional club, a full-time league club in many respects. So it's a club that people want to be associated with and want to work for and want to do well for. So, we'd be mad not to want the same, wouldn't we, I guess.
I think going down to the Shay, mate, as well, like you say, walking in down to the Shay and what the selling point of playing at the Shay every other week as well. And then the ground that brings, and everything that comes within that. And like you say there, behind the scenes, they're setting up, the club's getting closer and closer to delivering a football league model. And so why we are so passionate about this extra mile comment that I've thrown around tonight is that we want to prepare the club for the next level. And if we can't do that financially, we have to do that in the way that we behave and the way that we work as professional people. So we need people around us that want to drive and work in that way, because they've got aspirations of going to the next level where if they do, they'll be rewarded. So, all right, they might not get the monetary benefits at this level, but if they go the extra mile and they work hard, everybody's a winner at the end of the day. And that's why we're so passionate about sort of driving this club back towards league status, where for me, off the pitch, it's ready.
Yeah, well, you've seen it, especially over recent years, more and more, how many really well-run non-league clubs are now established in the Football League. And some of them, we know are through heavy investment, but some of them are just through being really well-run, making the most of everything they've got, really squeezing every bit of potential out of everything they've got, whether it be on the football side, the commercial side, the media side. And I think what I've learned about this club this season is that certainly those things are being done. Even praise to the previous manager for managing to squeeze certain things out of the football side in terms of some of the infrastructure that we were lucky enough to inherit. But now we want to take that and carry it forward and make that infrastructure even better, don't we? So
100%, yeah. Jamie deserves a lot of credit, like you say there, for putting the structures in place to take it from part-time to full to hybrid model. And some of the structures that we walked into were excellent, and Jamie deserves a lot of credit for putting them structures in place.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was challenging once it coming in at that late stage, a few days before the beginning of the season, not having a full squad. Those types of things were a challenge, but it would have been a much greater challenge had we not had the infrastructure in terms of the training facility, the timings, the expectations of the players in when they knew they were going to be in and when they didn't. If we'd have had to establish more of that, then it would have made things maybe even more difficult, and the start we had might not have been possible. So. Anyway, thank you for that. I've enjoyed that. I've learned a lot. I get the impression you're going to be asking more of me next season, and I'm not going to be getting paid anymore by the sounds of it.
Well, yeah, but me included. I'm looking forward to it, whenever that may be. Hopefully, we can finish this season off with playoffs and back to the Football League. And if that doesn't happen, then we'll be fully driven to make sure that we make a good stab of it next year. So thanks, Millie. Thanks for asking the questions. Thanks to the fans for throwing them in. I'm happy to do these as many times as people want. I quite enjoy doing them. As you can tell, I like talking. So we're happy to do them. And listen, again, in these tough times, I hope your families are all well. I hope you're all staying safe or staying alert, as we all have to do now. And just stay safe and make sure you support your families through what is unprecedented times and tough times.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Sign off there. Thanks for that, pal. Catch you in a bit.